Here's a down and dirty plumbing and tile job that I just took care of on Wednesday of this week. We had a bathroom sink that clogged to the point where the plumber could not free the obstruction. I was called in at the request of the owner to do the deconstruction and reassembly of both of these bathrooms. This is the apartment building that I did the boiler replacement in September of 2014, if you may recognize it. This is the downstairs unit, and I have to open up a hole in this individual ceiling to expose the pipe. So there's my respirator and my painter's plastic, which made my nice little tent to keep my dust and debris contained, because these are occupied units. I cut about a 24 by 28 inch hole into the ceiling of the downstairs apartment to expose the galvanized threaded pipe. And eventually I'll pan the camera up here in just a minute. I don't know what I'm thinking about. And there we go. So this is 2-inch galvanized threaded pipe. That is one of 3 90-degree bends that they put into this sink drain. It's coming through the floor on the 2-inch pipe there. This is the third 90, and then it drops into a Y pipe right there. And that pipe to the right is the shower from upstairs, and both the sink and shower dump into a 4-inch cast iron line, which is the plumbing for the toilet. But all we're interested in is this 2-inch line. I got everything exposed here, so I put some plastic up over the hole. I'll show you that here in a second. So when I'm doing the hammering upstairs, I don't drop anything through the hole. And I didn't. Nothing came through, but I like to be safe than sorry. Now, all this tile was built when tile was 90 years old, and they used lead and they used arsenic in the coloring, so I can't get the color exact, but I get it very close. I have a company that I fortunately can deal with that has this vintage look tile in stock most of the time. Here's the upstairs bathroom that has the sink. Now all the tile that I pull out of these bathrooms I bag and I take and I dump as hazardous waste, because it does have lead and arsenic in it, and I don't want to put that in regular garbage, so all that stuff costs extra money, but it is what it is. And if you're going to call me, you're going to get it done right. I probably have a day and a quarter into this whole job, but here we are on that same morning of the first day, Wednesday morning, and here's the pipe exposed. You'll see right at the floor level there, the first 90-degree bend comes across to a horizontal 2-inch pipe, and then there's another 90 that drops it in through the floor. Yeah, that's a T-fitting. That's the first 90, and it's the second 90. So if you're the guy that's got to clear this out with a drain snake, it's kind of difficult with all these 90-degree bends to get any real force applied on your obstruction, but it is what it is. And I can't stress enough the importance of having the individual that's going to put everything back together, have that individual do your deconstruction, because I'm very careful at how big I make the openings. I know the plumbers sometimes complain about it because I don't give them a whole lot of room, but it's too bad. It just is too bad. They got a text message. Yeah, unfortunately I chipped some of those tiles. I got a little anxious, but that's all right. We'll clean things up and I'll show you. So now at this point it's probably 10 a.m. and I gave the plumber a call and told him to get in here and get done. So he did. He wasn't too far away, and he came in, and in no time he whipped this out. He went with a 2-inch copper line with a nice swept 90. I didn't do any of this copper work. I didn't do any of these tie-ins because that's not my forte. I don't do plumbing. I don't want to be liable for any leaks, so I'm hands off when it comes to the actual repair work. So now it's time to make the hole a little less obvious. I love this Fast Set Light 5. It's a quick setting compound. It's dry in the bag. You mix it with water. It doesn't shrink. You can put layer over layer, and it's awesome. So this is how I left the hole with just the mud on it. I like making things as smooth as possible with the mud, so you don't have to do as much sanding afterwards. You take your time and try all this stuff out. You get good at your knives, and you don't have to do really any sanding. And in this case, in an occupied unit, I do wet sanding anyway, so I don't create dust. So while that was curing before I got paint on it, of course I went downstairs. My curious nature wanted to cut the pipe open and see, and you'll see the obstructions that were in those 90-degree bends. There was a second 90 I didn't get video of that was just clogged. So here I've wet sanded everything and I have a coat of primer on it. It's a water-based Kills primer. And then there's a top coat. This is a Kelly-Moore 1650 Antique White. You'll see I matched the stipple effect. If you roll your roller nice and dry, you get that little bumpy stipple effect. So here's the upstairs. You see, yeah, this is the next morning actually, yeah. You see the tenant that was living in this apartment likes me. She's a nice gal. She left me a little love note in my concrete. Yep, so here we are, 8 a.m. the next morning, and that's what I did. I went over the top with a real loose floor leveling compound because it's extremely important that your floor is level to the old grade so your tile lines up. I used more of that fast set on the wall repair. I pulled that wire tight just like I did in downstairs ceiling repair. You pull the wire tight, wire it all back together, and you put 2 or 3 coats of that mud on there. And you have a similar backing as what the original stuff is. So I came in with a grout saw on my Jobmaster rigid multi-tool, and I cut the grout lines out because you want to disassociate the tiles as you're chipping them out so you don't damage the adjoining tiles. And here's where we left it. Now I was telling you that those fuchsia, it's actually a fuchsia color. The fuchsia doesn't match. The walls of the 90-year-old tile have been exposed to ultraviolet rays, so they faded a little bit. And the green and the black and the floor tiles I all have to cut myself, custom cut out of larger pieces. Here's a quick tip if you're trying to match old grout on tiles. This is a bone colored. Even though I'm going over white grout, the original grout was white, it's never truly white and not at 90 years old. So I use a bone colored because it's got a nice yellowing to it which matches your grout. There's how everything came out. That black tile is an odd size, so I had to cut it out of a 12 by 12. And the fuchsia color squares I could get, those are 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, so they're kind of an old school size. But that's how I left it. I put everything back together myself. I had about, let's see, I think this was probably about 10 a.m., just a couple hours into it, maybe 3 hours into it the second day. And that's how we're going to leave her. So there you go, down and dirty tile repair. That's what I do. And right now I'm building a stairway, a staircase, exterior staircase. So I had to get this done, and I got to get my butt back to the staircase. So, Door Slammer, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Gotta go, gotta run. See ya.